ready to start talking about the weight management stuff. All right.
He was looking at me, I don't know.
All right. Okay, so weight management. That's is that a part of longevity?
Oh, absolutely.
Who says it is?
I'd say it is.
Does anybody say that it's not?
Uh-oh.
Mike,
Are
a
you
little
only-
bit of controversy.
Okay.
Mike,
I
what?
gotta hear both sides of the story on this one.
Michael, did you vote twice?
Yes,
Why did you vote twice?
because I have two hands.
Nice.
So I figure I get two votes.
Because you could? No? Nice.
You can get away with it here?
Okay. I personally believe that weight management is a part of longevity. It's not my main passion, but since there's so much false crap that I've learned over the years, and now I know what that false crap is, now I'm passionate about it. All right, so into the false crap. Anybody ever heard of the Biggest Loser diet? All right.
Jillian Michaels, I think.
Jillian Michaels?
Yeah, it's on TV, that show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I don't know what the diet is, though. I know it's rigorous exercise.
yeah. The diet is like it's a move more, eat less approach.
Okay.
Okay.
So you
it's
burn more than you're taking in.
Right.
So you
Right.
have to-
It's like
Burn the fat.
budgeting. If you spend more than you make, then you're going to go broke, and you're going to run out of money, and you're going to run out of fat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, it doesn't work. It works for a very brief period of time, and it's like a spectacular feat for the person who did it,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes for a great entertainment. But there's
Fat people
actually
sweating.
some very negative effects, and so with those shows, they don't ever have a reunion show.
Yeah, to show you that they gained it all back.
They're all fat now.
Yeah.
Again,
Mhm.
they all gain
I
it
can
back.
testify to that.
Yeah,
I've been on a million diets in 68 years. Yeah.
yeah,
And you just gain it back and that extra some more too.
yeah,
And end up like this. Okay, no more dieting, so.
yeah. So the Biggest Loser diet, these people will be burning, like, their metabolic rate will be 3,500 calories per day is like what they'll be burning.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna put 4,000. This is calories. This is months. So 6 months. Week 30, I believe. 25. 3 months. All right. The filled in circle is where the person starts out burning with exercise. All right, and over the course of the show, they burn less calories. Okay, so this goes down like this, and the open circle is afterwards. All right, I guess it doesn't matter if it's open or closed. But 3,500 down to 1,500. Oop, 1.5K. All right. All right. When these people go through this process, they are also restricting their diet like heavily. They are only eating 1,500 calories per day for the whole show, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and by the end of the show, they're maybe barely burning 1,500, maybe burning a little bit more. All right, and then, so what happens after the show? They might eat 1,700 calories, and well, actually, they don't start burning more. That's false. They eat 1,700 calories, and they're still burning only 1,500. So if that happens, they're gonna gain the weight back. Right, and that happens for a intricate reason. The who's ever heard of insulin? Insulin. Taylor, Dad, you've heard of insulin. All right. Actually, I'm gonna write that in red because insulin makes you fat. So that's a negative point, so I want to write that in red so you guys remember. Now, insulin's not totally bad, all right? Insulin does serve its purpose. When you eat, there is an insulin response. Just like there's an inflammatory response, there is also an insulin response. All right? Depending on what you eat, insulin spikes a certain amount. It's not just one level of insulin response. It could be a very mild insulin response. It could be a humongous insulin response. All right? Insulin is a hormone, all right, that tells your body to store fat. All right, if you eat every 2 hours, you're going to trigger an insulin response every 2 hours. If you eat only every 16, like if you do a 16-8 fast, so where you're eating for only 16 hours, you're not having an insulin response for 16 hours. So, and the insulin, it just floats around in the blood. Okay, it's a chemical messenger hormone that floats around in the blood, so it trickles off the longer that goes by. So how do we reduce insulin? One, by spacing out our meals, by fasting, all right, and by eating or avoiding those high insulin responding foods. Right? What's an example of a high insulin reacting food?
White sugar.
Sugar, absolutely.
Carbohydrates.
All right? There are some carbohydrates that don't cause a crazy response. So with refined grains, refined causes a higher insulin response. Okay, with unrefined grains, you actually have like the antidote to this insulin already in it. So that's called fiber. So fiber, if you want to make somebody fat, you make sure they don't eat any fiber with their sugar and with their grain.
Ice cream.
Right? And you can also, it's not filling anymore, so you can eat so much more of it. And it causes that psychological response that person's looking for.
How much fiber is in ice cream?
0.
I don't think there's any, but there's a ton of casein in there.
Yeah.
And casein is highly inflammatory, lots of sugar in there. So not only with the ice cream, like not only does it have the sugar in it, but it also has this thing that slows everything down so that everything that comes in behind it gets more time to be absorbed by the body. And so it spikes insulin even more, and it keeps it elevated. All right, so we want to keep it down as low as possible for as long as possible. And actually, after the workout, so once you work out, like at the end of that 16-hour, whatever you decide, period, after that, I actually do want you to have some high glycemic, high insulin spiking food. Why would I say that?
I don't know, David, why would you?
Thank
Tell
you. I'm
us.
glad you asked, Susan. Thank you very much.
Tell us why. I'm intrigued.
All right, because insulin actually is a good thing for certain purposes. When it comes to building muscle and repairing muscle, insulin's actually a good thing. We want to spike it very high right after the workout and then not spike it. We want to keep it low for the entire day, workout, and spike insulin right after the workout, and then have it just, taper off.
I have a question.
Sure.
So where did this idea come from when people like that run these marathons and all, and they say they carb up before the marathon?
Mm-hmm.
This is like backwards to what you're saying, instead of carving up afterwards.
Well, have you ever looked at one of these people that
These runners,
these runners?
oh, they look all right to me.
They are very, very thin.
Yeah,
Okay, so they absolutely need
because they're
as
burning.
much as they can.
Okay,
Yeah, so bodybuilders, they actually carbo load before a show. That's that.
Marathon runners are burning 25 to 30,000 calories when they do that.
wow. Okay,
Their metabolic rate is also very, very high.
so they're like a group unto themselves. You're talking for the average person. You wanna have the
You can go run
fasting.
marathons if you want.
How do you know I haven't?
I helped.
Oh, I mean, okay,
All right, so they need, so your body has two storage forms of glucose. So one is actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's glycogen. The storage form of glucose is glycogen, and then there's fat, which is a different form. It's no longer glucose at all. All right, so glucose is actually good. And then there's fat, right? And there's glycogen. All right, glycogen is chains of glucose. All right. Fat is it used to be glycogen or glucose, and it's been altered for storage. Okay, for longer down the road storage. All right. I'm going to go to an analogy. All right, here is a. That's all right. That's all right. You need to answer that?
no.
Put it on speaker.
You're in the class.
All right, this is a deep freezer.
That's a deeper freezer.
This is a refrigerator. That's a freezer. All right, so this is essentially your liver and anywhere you can store glycogen. And this is somewhere you store fat. So this is where you store fat. And this is where you store glycogen. All right, this is harder to get to. All right, this is readily available. This is in the basement. This is in the kitchen. All right, in most people's houses at least, if they even have a freezer. All right. your body won't let you get to this until this is empty. Alright? What controls if you can burn this up or not? How often you eat. How often you exercise. If you don't exercise, and if you eat all the time, you're never going to empty the fridge. Okay? If you can't empty the fridge, then there's no need to go to the freezer. Alright? And also, what if you do empty the fridge and then you eat and you spike insulin all the time, and your insulin tells your body to put more back here. Alright, so this insulin thing, that is like a valve for going between here and there. If insulin is always high, then this valve is going to be off. And it will not let any of this fat out of there. So insulin has to be as low as we can get it for as long as we can get it. Alright, so we're talking about fasting, and we're talking about working out, and not spiking insulin like any other time except for after the workout. Alright?
So if you're gonna have ice cream, have it after your workout.
Exactly.
Well,
If you're gonna have
I could run to the ice cream store.
anything that will spike your insulin high, that needs to be done after the workout, if at all. If you're really serious about weight management, or you need to do something drastic, then don't do any sugar or fructose like right after, or if you want to build muscle, you can do glucose, fructose, a little bit of omega-3 fatty acids, and protein right after the workout. And then have your regular meal later. Alright, so
I don't know what that tape I was listening to. One of the things David had listened to, what happens is when your body, they say few calories, cut your calories, blah, blah, blah. That's what they do on that Biggest Loser.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they found through studies that, let's say you go from 4,000 calories to 2,000 calories. So you cut your calories by 50%. What happens is your metabolism will adjust to that by 50%. So what your body says is, if you're only going to give me 50%, that's all I need. And my metabolism, so I'm not losing weight, because my metabolism drops down and equal to the amount of calories I put in it. And
excellent.
there's a lot of studies that, that's what I heard in that one, I don't remember which tape it was. So
The only way to keep the metabolism working is to exercise, right?
Black coffee doesn't spike your insulin. It tricks, it's got caffeine in it, so it gets your heart going, and it raises your metabolism. It forces it up.
Well,
Green tea.
There you
You
go.
can't have any sugar in it. Anything that will spike your insulin. Splenda in the powder form, does that spike your insulin?
Yeah. No.
Why do you say yes? Why do you say
I
yes?
haven't talked in a while.
Because he
so
had a
I'm just trying to
50%
talk.
chance of getting it right.
Okay. It actually does. Although it's no calories. Does that make sense?
No, it must be some crazy, chemistry.
It is chemistry. The reason why that is because it's synthesized with dextrose. Dextrose is a carbohydrate. So in the powdered form that you put in your coffee, that will spike your insulin. Okay? Now if it's already in a Red Bull that's sugar-free, that actually does not spike your insulin. Okay? I'm not saying that those are good. Those are actually very bad.
Yes.
Those are
Unless you
actually
mix vodka with your Red Bull.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta
the
put
vodka
something in there.
kills all of
Give it some
the
redeeming qualities.
inflammatories. It burns them.
Cool. All right, and yeah, so back to Dad and what Dad was saying, and then I'm gonna wrap this up, and then we're gonna start drinking. Is with the metabolic rate. So metabolic rate is like a budget. It's like a baseline budget. Imagine you've got a corporation or whatever, and you're the financial officer, or you're the chief accountant or whatever. You have a budget, right? Every department has their own budget. Stop moving.
We're fine.
All right. So if you are good at your job, then you are going to plan that budget, and you are not going to go over that budget. All right? Unless something happens. Maybe there's an investment opportunity. Perhaps.
Or a Gucci
All right.
bag.
So yeah, unless there's a Gucci bag.
I hope there's not a test. Should've
Oh,
been
there will
taking
be.
notes.
There will be. Yeah, I went and bought all this stuff.
I know.
But no, it's totally cool. I'll use it at Longevity 101. All right. Okay. Metabolic rate. So, let's say your body is used to 2,500 calories. So you usually eat 2,500 calories or more a day. And then you, over a 6-month period, start feeding it 1,500. Alright? Well, over that 6-month period, it is going to get used to that. And it's going to just reduce your metabolic rate. You don't feel very good. You feel tired. You're not like all there mentally. There's that fog going on. There is, you feel cold. Your extremities are really cold because your body's trying to not spend any calories or spend less. You actually cannot sleep. You cannot sleep because your body knows that you need to find some more food. So it's trying to keep you awake. So it's going to produce this hormone called cortisol. Cortisol elevates your insulin. It's like this domino hits this domino. Alright, so if you're eating fewer and fewer calories like they do in the Biggest Loser diet, and you're going to elevate your cortisol, you're also going to elevate this other hormone called ghrelin.
You made that word up.
Yeah, I
Never
made it
seen
up.
that one.
I made it up. After that movie in the 80s, that horror comedy, Gremlins. Yeah. All right, ghrelin is the hunger hormone. And slowly over this period of time, you get hungrier. And your insulin spikes even more. And you're in a bad mood. You're grumpy. You can't sleep.
You can't win.
You cannot win.
This
You
is
cannot win.
my autobiography right here.
So then what do? You go to these foods that have that emotional, psychological response when you eat them. Like as soon as you eat them, it makes you feel better
Celery.
about everything.
Yeah.
It's right
Or peanut
below the
butter.
ice cream.
I usually
Or
eat a
peanut butter.
salad and some fruit.
Celery and peanut butter is good.
This sure would, not be as much fun if we weren't all smart asses in here.
Oh, it definitely wouldn't be. Definitely wouldn't be.
We're listening though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that it's a small class. All right, so with fasting, what do you think happens to your metabolic rate when you fast?
theoretically, you say it probably goes down.
Yes. It doesn't though.
Yeah, I know,
Why doesn't it?
because it goes in that freezer in the basement and gets, what's in it to bring it back up.
Since you turn down insulin, you can access that storage, that basement storage freezer, and you can live off of that. A lot of us could live, like the longest time anybody has ever fasted for is like 382 days.
Yeah.
That's over a year and almost a month.
So even thin people can do that for a long time?
Shoot ya. Shoot ya. Now if you are like skin and bones, of course, that's probably not advisable, and
Right.
there's probably no reason to.
And you don't wanna lose weight.
The 24 to 48 hour fasts are still great for your brain. Man, the ancient Greeks, they fasted for cognitive function, for mental clarity. Like they knew, or they had this, religious, purpose for fasting. And anyway, over that, so with people over 40, the best way, and this is actually from a study, is to do an alternate day fast. It's perhaps maybe a little bit easier too. So, you eat one day all your normal meals. Perhaps you keep it to lunch and dinner, or lunch and a small meal and dinner, and then the next day you don't eat, or maybe you only eat dinner, or that'd be a 24-hour or a 22-hour fast if you ate dinner at the same time the 2 nights. That's really good for cognitive function and reducing insulin. So yeah, that's all I got.
No, that was awesome.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very